This time on Erotasy, we talk about how to formulate your magic system and or technology system for your story. We review the stories The Encounter, a Sensual Alien Romance, as well as Roll of Thunder, the Argoran Princes, and we have a reading of Decontamination by yours truly. So, fellow traveler, join me down the roads of Erotasy. Welcome to Tales of Erotasy, your place for lust, lore, and legend. I'm your host, Erica B. Welcome to episode 3 of Erotasy. I hope you've been enjoying yourself. I know I have. Let's get started with our writer friends today. I was thinking we can go over developing consistent magic systems and technology systems. You want to keep your reader engaged with the world you build. You want to wow them. It doesn't have to be crazy, but it should be, as I mentioned, consistent. Your world's magic system or technology needs to have some sort of foundation. You want to ask yourself, what makes this work? Does the energy come from emotions, natural laws, something new, something else? Is the technology scientific based or is it speculative? All you need to do really there is to define clear boundaries for what it can do and can't do. For example, one of my characters from my Crimson world, and I told you you'd hear a lot about Crimson, is Dina. And she absorbs energy through desire. She can then use the energy she gathers from others to fuel spells, even though spellcasting is not one of her strong suits. If she takes too much energy from these people, two things happen. A, they can die, which really sucks. Or if she takes too much, but not enough to kill them, they can go into a coma. And then also, if she absorbs too much of their energy for a temporary amount of time, she can kind of absorb their thoughts and memories. And if they are a magical being, some of their power. If she doesn't take the energy from people, she's absolutely useless when it comes to magic work. It's already something she can't do to begin with, for the most part. But if she can take energy from others, it can fuel the spells. You definitely want to have your magic or technology have some kind of cost or consequence. It can't just be, oh, it's here and you can use it. No, there has to be some negative side to it, in my opinion. For me, when Dina uses her powers, it kind of takes a bit of her humanity away, which she is desperately trying to cling to. And a boundary for her would be she can't use her powers on certain creatures. What you really want to avoid is the feeling of a get out of jail free card when it comes to the magic or technology. Really, a consequence ups the game. The next big step is to decide who can use it and why. Can everybody in this world use this magic, or does everyone have access to this technology? Or is it more like only the government has access, or the rich, or the powerful? Those are things you want to think about when it comes to the framework of your world. Next, you want to think about creating the limits and weaknesses of these powers or technologies. You want there to be checks and balances in your systems. So what are the limitations of this technology or magic, or what are the vulnerabilities of it? You want them to be believable and have some type of flaw. Like in Crimson, for me, all of the spells have some kind of bounce back. So the witches in town who can use magic, they have to be very careful with their spells, because if it's too negative, they'll get hit with some type of negativity on themselves. The next thing you want to do is to make sure to tie your systems to your world. Like, how do people interact with the technology? Or how do they use their magic skills? Is it an everyday thing? Is it once in a while? Can it only be used at certain times? Is it feared? Is it revered? Do people know about it? Do people not know about it? So those are some things that you would want to kind of incorporate into that magical system. For my world of Crimson, the greater world does not know about magic. There are magical beings, but it's a very small fraction of the population. They mostly come together in certain cities, not usually big cities like New York or Baltimore or something like that, but smaller unknown cities. And that's where a lot of the Earth's energy is, kind of like a pulse point for them to be able to absorb energy. So that's why they flock to these places. And Crimson is one of those places. And for that particular city, the area where most of the supernatural beings basically own the city is called the Moonlight Mile. It's not just a mile of road, though. It's actually a bigger area, like the whole downtown area of Crimson. And most of the shops are owned by either shapeshifters or vampires or the witches in the coven, things like that. But the greater human society does not realize that there are these creatures in the town or in the world, though people in Crimson do have a better idea than most. And the supernatural creatures that live in the city embrace it in a kitsch kind of way to attract tourists. The last thing you want to do is to test your systems. Maybe come up with a smaller story that's set in the same world to see how everything works. Or you could do something like my friend Tommy did when we first started with Nightcrest and make a game out of it. That really, really helped develop his story so he can figure out what he wanted to do and how things worked. And honestly, it's a lot of fun, and you can make some really great friends if you get together and come up with a whole story, like D&D style, for your world. All I can also say is don't forget to leave some mystery. Not everything has to be explained right up front, and you kind of want to just like spread it out in nuggets. At least in my opinion, you want to spread it out in nuggets on how the world works and the technology and the supernatural world around the characters works. I feel like the exploration of all of that is the fun part of the story, even for yourself as the writer. So fellow writers of fantasy and sci-fi out there, I would love to hear more about what you're doing with your world and its technology or the magic system. So if you have a story you've been working on, just let me know in the comments. I'd love to explore further with you and help you further develop if you want someone to bounce some ideas off of. I'm a really good listener. I promise. I really can't wait to hear from you. I love magic systems and technology systems. I think that is so fun. All right. Now, for those of you out there who are looking to read a story instead of write a story, I have a couple of great books that I've recently read that I'm going to tell you about. I had a lot of fun with these, and I think you would too. The first one is called The Encounter, a Sensual Alien Romance by H. Hardy. The story starts with Denise Archer. She is going to her family's cabin in the middle of nowhere to get away from it all. Just needs some peace and quiet like we all do. Luckily, the day she decides to go on this trip, there is going to be a rare astronomical event happening that evening. A meteor shower that originated from the Andromeda Galaxy is going to intersect with Earth. And it's going to give a once-in-a-lifetime show. She's very excited about it. After taking a nice relaxing bath, she goes outside and prepares to watch the meteor shower. As she does, she hears a loud bang in the forest on the property, near the property line of her family's home. She does as one does and goes out to explore to find out exactly what that sound is. Eventually, she finds a crater with a glowing orb. Now, personally, I wouldn't have done the next part, but she picked it up to try to figure out what it is. I wouldn't have touched it personally. Not a glowing orb. That's how one gets beamed up. So this crazy lady decides to take it back to the cabin. And, she's touching it and she's fascinated by it. She also kind of feels like almost like thought from it or feelings, which she thinks is really weird, but also cool. Definitely sensing a connection there. So she sits it down on the recliner and goes up to bed. Strips down naked and go to bed, by the way, which I hear is very comfortable, but I'm personally not the one to strip down totally naked because what happens if the house catches on fire? I need something to at least be covering my ass in case of fire. While she's having a great snooze, this orb opens up and some ooze slurps out of it. So this mystical glob is like, I need to find the person who touched me and like try to pick up on the scent of this person. So it crawls up the stairs. I guess crawl is the right word. I guess slither is probably more accurate. It goes to her room and finds her fast asleep. So this ooze is awfully fresh. Okay, I mean, I know it's a curious, sentient ooze, but it got up all in her business, exploring her body and touching her in intimate ways. And eventually she wakes up and she's all like, oh, what the hell is this? I mean, she's doing like any rational person does and freaks the hell out. Because I know I'd be freaking the hell out. But luckily, since she has like a connection to this ooze, she kind of senses that it's just curious and wants to get to know her better. So she's like, you know what? All right, let's give this a shot. Which then leads to a delicious scene of intimacy between Denise and this sexy sentient ooze. And I'm not going to lie, at this point, I started thinking about Odo and Kira from Star Trek Deep Space Nine. You're going to hear a lot about Star Trek in this podcast because I'm a Trekkie. I will not lie. I fully admit. And as much as I didn't want to think about it before, I kept thinking about the freaky stuff that they could have done together and how interesting that is. And I wondered how much it would cost to find sentient ooze on Amazon, but unfortunately such things do not exist. I'll leave the rest up to you to read because it is a wonderful read. I very, very much enjoyed this story. Hardy managed to pack a lot of plot and characterization and boom boom in just 58 pages. Both Denise and the ooze are like warm and alive and fully realized, and you actually grow to care about them as characters during the course of the story. The story itself was a lot of fun, even outside of the delicious smut. So it made it very, very fun to read. The only downside was that it kind of did feel like maybe ChatGPT edited the story a little bit because some of the sentences got a little wordy. But underneath that, you can tell Hardy was the one writing it. The ChatGPT did not come with a story at all. This is her story, his or her story. So overall, the wordy sentences were totally ignorable and didn't actually take away too much enjoyment from the actual tale. I personally give this 3 out of 4 eggplants and 5 out of 5 peaches. This was a really, really good story. I think you need to pick this up right now and read it. It'll be very, very fast. It's fast paced, fast moving. You get into it really, really quickly. And it's just so much fun. I would love to see more from these characters. Okay, so continuing with our space theme, we have next Roll of Thunder, the Argoran Princes by PC Tester. Now, I'm going to take a hold up minute here because honestly, when I first read the title, I kept thinking about Skyrim and the lusty Argonian. So every time I read the title, I kind of giggle to myself thinking about that, even though it's not even the same word. All right, now that I've gotten that confession off my chest, I'll continue. The story is about civilian starship captain Callisto Callie Thorne, and she's tasked to make an important cargo dump to the Argorian Prime Queen. I'm sorry, that might be Argonan. No? Argoran. I am so sorry, PC Tester, if you're out there. I am having some difficulty pronouncing this properly. Anyway, usually these type of missions would be handled by the military, so she's not really sure why she is on this journey. But hey, the money pays well, so she decides to go for it. And during this journey, because of policies for this race, she has to be silent for 20 days. No communications for 20 whole days on this journey. Naturally, something goes wrong. Something hits a ship. She has to try to repair it. She's all by herself, so she's like, oh my God, I got to fix this. But she does have a computer that could potentially help her. But while she's suited up in her spacesuit to go repair something on the outside, she finds someone with her. This turns out to be a hulking hottie, the prince of the Argoran people. And he helps save her from disaster. Here's the thing, though. When he saves her, he is completely naked. Nothing on. And he is in a state of heat. And he's like, hey, you're going to have to help me with this heat. So Callie does what any good hostess would do in this situation and gives him what he needs. But wait, there's more, because it's not just him. It's him and his two brothers, who are blessedly smaller than he is, but they're still gorgeous alien men, all three in heat, and all needing to be satisfied. With those bits established, the rest of the book is just straight up smut. Smut, 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 boom, boom, everywhere. Like everybody, all kinds of positions, all kinds of stuff going on. It's crazy to say it's only like less than 100 pages, how much smut was in this story. I do want to say that is not a complaint. It's just, I could not believe how much got packed in there in that little bit of time. It will leave you absolutely breathless. So for the downside of this story, which I don't exactly consider a downside, is I don't think this one was run through any editing per se. I mean, it's not like anything was grammatically wrong, but some of the words were repetitive, and that makes it a little bit less interesting for me. Also, I didn't know the the verb to husk was a thing, but these characters are constantly husking, to husk. I didn't know. At any rate, it didn't deter from a good time. I really had fun with this story. Overall, I'm going to give it 4 eggplants. It's probably the smuttiest story I've read so far in my reviews. And also 4 peaches. It was good, but I think it could have been a little bit better. Alright, so that is our reviews. Don't forget, these are on Kindle and Kindle Unlimited. If you're doing Kindle Unlimited, every page read is a little bit of money for the artist, so definitely give it a quick read. It won't take you very, very long, and you'll have a lot of fun with these stories if you're into some delicious sci-fi alien smut. Okay, so speaking of our alien friends, I would like to read you an excerpt from Decontamination. It's one of my stories, and it's available on Amazon right now. It is Kindle Unlimited, so if you have Kindle Unlimited, you can read it right now today for free. Otherwise, you can buy it for $2.99. This one is one of my original babies. I wrote this years ago, and actually it was on a website, which name escapes me at this point, and I feel terrible about not remembering. But it was the very first thing I ever had published online, and oh my God, I was so proud of myself for actually getting it out there, because I was so scared to submit anything anywhere because I didn't think my writing was good enough. But I did make some royalties off it, so I'm not upset. And now I've fixed it up and re-released it because that site is gone now. And it's available to read today. This one isn't quite smutty. It's more steamy, I guess. Maybe not even steamy. There's no sex or anything, but it's still a good read. The rest of the story has some fun alien smut. You can't go wrong with alien boom boom. Anyway, here we go. The story is told by the perspective of Maggie. She is a soldier in a future war against an alien force called the Owaka. This war has been going on since she was a child. She's never known a time before war. And her partner is a hybrid of a human and the Owaka. His name is Price. And they've been fighting together for years now. And this scene takes place during a dream. But it's more than a dream, it's also a memory. So this time I decided to do something a little different. instead of me reading the story, I am going to go ahead and let AI do it because I kind of don't like the sound of my voice when I read the stories. But I hope that doesn't take away from your enjoyment, because I paid for the AI to get the good stuff for you. Without further ado, here is Decontamination by Erica Beale.
Stardust Cantina. I don't know how I got here, but stood in front of the Stardust Cantina, a tiny, dingy military bar just outside of the base in Buffalo. 3 years ago, their general borrowed me and Price after the city's forces took a huge hit. Normally, the Oak stayed away from northern cities. Too cold, but the summer had been unusually hot, so they took the opportunity to attack. No one saw it coming. Troops from all over had to be temporarily stationed there, including us. I could hear music blasting from beyond the closed door. A familiar, catchy tune played. It took me a few moments to place it. Curious, I walked into the bar. A wall of sound hit me, buzzing from loud, drunken conversations, laughter, singing. The stench of alcohol, old and new, assaulted my nose. The whole place was hazy with smoke, both tobacco and otherwise. Despite the noise, a voice caught my attention. "Come on!" a woman's voice teased across the room. I squinted my eyes, trying to see through the curtain of smoke. I knew that voice. I moved closer to be sure. "No, I don't think so," a man replied. Price. It had to be Price. Even in this crowd, I knew it. And only one person could make his voice sound so anxious. "Let's get on that floor, soldier," I heard my own voice drunkenly demand. I saw myself playfully tug at Price's arm, pulling him towards a crowd of dancing members of the squad. His eyes were wide, nervous, and wild. I knew he didn't like to dance, but... Wait, how was I seeing this? How was I here and there? It made no sense. I watched as he caved to my orders as always. He always followed my lead, even when he wasn't sure. That mindset had gotten us into lots of trouble over the years. We stepped onto the dance floor. He stared down at me, so confused and unsure. I grabbed his hands and placed them on my hips. I remembered how I thought the heat of his hands felt good, even through my clothes. I watched as I began swaying my hips to the music, slowly, seductive, enticing. "Dance, Price, just move like this," I said to him, moving in closer to him as I spoke. He swallowed hard, took a few deep breaths. After a few moments, he gave in to me again. His body moved in time with mine. I no longer had to push myself against him. Instead, he pulled me closer, holding me firmly in place. Since he had me in his grasp, I threw my hands round his slender shoulders. The music swept through me like a whirlwind. I felt powerful and seductive. But more importantly, I was with Price. I was safe and secure. Sweat glistened off the skin of my arms, the bar already scorched, but my partner's body blazed from his own natural heat. It felt good and sultry. I could tell by the look in his liquid honey eyes, he felt the same. Usually, even when he drank, he stayed reserved. Now, my friend looked wonderfully free. We didn't speak as we danced. I was too busy mouthing the words. Price stared at my lips as I sang along with intense focus. For the briefest moment, I hoped he may move in and kiss me. But I shook that thought away. No way would Price want to kiss me, and it sure as hell wouldn't be a good idea. Trying to dismiss the overwhelming sensation, I turned in his arms. His hands remained on my hips as I continued to grind to the sexy tune. I felt his pointy chin press against my hair as we moved. I enjoyed the feel of him, maybe even too much. It had to be the alcohol. This was too out of character for us both. "Hey, Mags," he started whispering to my right ear, but I never got to hear the rest. One of the men from Buffalo came up to us. He grabbed Price's arm, yanking us apart. "What do you think you're doing, you piece of shit half-breed?" The burly man slurred with anger. "You can't have our women, dirty lab squid." Price can fight. In fact, he is stronger than most on the team. He only showed it on the battlefield. Despite having the rights to in this situation, he would never strike back at the idiot between us. Me? Well, I sure as shit wasn't having any of it. "Hey, Peanut Peen," I yelled as jumped my way between the men. "Back the fuck up." He shoved me aside, causing me to stagger back into a crowd of his waiting friends. A couple of them grabbed me, holding me back. I was going to kick the ass of every one of them who touched me. No one gave them the right. The burly man grabbed a fist full of Price's shirt. He pulled my partner's face close as he began yelling into it. "You shouldn't be in this bar to begin with, or in this squad. You shouldn't even be breathing the same air. Now you think you can fuck what's ours?" As the big man screamed, Price kept his face completely neutral. I knew this wasn't the first time a squad member treated him like this. Hell, he's had to deal with varying degrees of prejudice his whole life. It pained me he was so used to it. He wasn't fighting back. But, again, I was having none of it. I showed the boys I was as tough as anyone, if not tougher. I fought their hands off with single-minded madness. No one could treat us this way and get away with it. Not today. Not any day. With minimal effort, I shook the boys off and leapt towards Big Man, shoving him away from Price. Price's eyes widened briefly, but I noticed how they warmed at me as I got to work. I grabbed a fistful of the assaulter's shirt, bringing him closer to my eye level. "Bitch, I belong to me and no one else," I screamed at him. I drew back a fist, ready to swing. Gently, Price grabbed my arm. An unspoken conversation happened then, a silent warning from him. Blinding rage in me, but Price's look soothed me, at least for a moment. I turned my attention back to Big Man. "You see this? This hybrid you look down on is triple the man you can hope to be. Next time, mind your own business, you filth." Just as I was about to let him go, he growled between gritted teeth. "Fuck you, bitch. Spreading your legs for a monster? You ain't even worth it." I looked to Price. The look he gave back was more heated than I'd ever seen. To me, that gave me permission to move forward with my original course of action. "You said the wrong thing, buddy," Price said to Big Man. With that, I raised my fist again, this time swinging away into the fucker's nose.
There you go. That was just a little piece of Decontamination. It's actually a much longer story. Plenty smutty. Lots of great stuff. It's a romance, sci-fi romance. Check it out. Again, it's on Amazon for $2.99. But if you have Kindle Unlimited, you get to read it for free. And we all like the word "for free." It's one of the best words in our vocabulary. Don't forget, if you have a story you'd like me to read, or maybe have AI read, just let me know. I am more than happy to send some business your way. With that, travelers, we are at the end of this episode of Tales of Erotasy. Fellow writers, I wish you the best of luck in creating your magical and or technology systems for your stories. For our readers out there, don't forget to check out The Encounter, a Sensual Alien Romance by H. Hardy, as well as Roll of Thunder, the Argoran Princes by PC Tester. Again, PC Tester, if you're out there somewhere, I am so sorry for keep butchering your title. I don't know why my lips just do not want to wrap around that word. And of course, I hope you enjoyed The Tiny Morsel of Decontamination by yours truly. Again, that is available on Kindle as well, Kindle Unlimited, but you can buy it for $2.99 on Amazon right now. As always, thank you so much for joining me on this journey through lust, lore, and legend. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, share, and leave a review. It's the best way to keep the passion alive. Until next time, stay curious, stay daring, and keep dreaming of worlds beyond.